This is the 7th and last day of the February 95 7-day retreat in Springwater. It will not be a talk as usual, but we'll read from various books, which are all copyrighted. That's why this tape of the last day is not for sale. You can listen to it in the library, I guess. First selection is the Zen teaching of Wang Po, who lived about 1,000 years ago in China as a Zen teacher. The selections in this volume are written down by his disciple, Pesu, who was a Buddhist scholar and also the governor of the province where Wang Po taught. At that time in China, politics and spiritual teaching mingled. At least we're made to believe so. Translation is by John Blofeld. Reference to the Buddhas is not just to historical personages or like the historical personage of Gautama Buddha, but the word itself in Sanskrit refers to an enlightened being or to absolute truth, that which is not dependent on anything. The master said to me, let me say this too. This is not meant to be a presentation of Wang Po. These are excerpts, and even within a paragraph, words may be left out, or sentences. Some of the Sanskrit words like dharma have been translated into true teaching, and so forth. The master said to me, all the Buddhas and all sentient beings are nothing but the one mind, beside which nothing exists. This mind, which is without beginning, is unborn and indestructible. It is not green nor yellow, and has neither form nor appearance. It does not belong to the categories of things which exist or do not exist, nor can it be thought of in terms of young or old. It is neither long nor short, big nor small, for it transcends all limits, measures, names, traces, and comparisons. It is that which you see before you. Begin to reason about it, and you at once fall into error. It is like the boundless void which cannot be fathomed or measured. The one mind alone is the Buddha, and there is no distinction between the Buddha and sentient things, but that sentient beings are attached to forms and so seek externally for Buddhahood. By their very seeking, they lose it. For that is using the Buddha to seek for the Buddha, and using mind to grasp mind. Even though they do their utmost for a full eon, they will not be able to attain to it. They do not know that if they put a stop to conceptual thought and forget their anxiety, the Buddha will appear before them. For this mind is Buddha, and Buddha is all living beings. It is not the less for being manifested in ordinary beings, nor is it greater for being manifested in the Buddhas. Mind is like the void in which there is no confusion or evil. as when the sun wheels through it, shining upon the four corners of the world. For when the sun rises and illuminates the whole earth, the void gains not in brilliance. And when the sun sets, the void does not darken. The phenomena of light and dark alternate with each other, but the nature of the void remains unchanged. So it is with the mind of Buddha and of sentient beings. If you look upon the Buddha as presenting a pure, bright, or enlightened appearance, or upon sentient beings as presenting a foul, dark, or mortal-seeming appearance, these conceptions, resulting from attachment to form, will keep you from supreme knowledge, even after passing of as many eons as there are sands in the Ganges. There's only the one mind and not a particle of anything else on which to lay hold. If you students of the way do not awake to this mind, substance, you will overlay mind with conceptual thought. You will seek the Buddha outside yourselves, and you will remain attached to forms, pious practices, and so on, all of which are harmful and not at all the way to supreme knowledge. Mind is filled with radiant clarity, so cast away the darkness of your old concepts. Though others may talk of the way of the Buddhas as something to be reached by various pious practices and by scripture study, you must have nothing to do with such ideas. A perception, sudden as blinking, that subject and object are one, will lead to a deeply mysterious, wordless understanding. And by this understanding you will awake to the truth. When you happen upon someone who has no understanding, you must claim to know nothing. He may be delighted by his discovery of some way to enlightenment, yet if you allow yourselves to be persuaded by him, you will experience no delight at all, but suffer both sorrow and disappointment. Even if you do obtain some trifling method, it will only be a thought-constructed thing, having nothing to do with truth. Your true nature is something never lost to you even in moments of delusion, nor is it gained at the moment of enlightenment. It depends on nothing and is attached to nothing. It is all-pervading, spotless beauty. It is the self-existent and uncreated absolute. Absolute meaning not dependent. Ah, it is a jewel beyond all price. When a sudden flash of thought occurs in your mind, and you see it for a dream or an illusion, then you can enter into the state reached by the Buddhas of the past. Not that the Buddhas of the past really exist, or that the Buddhas of the future have not yet come into existence. Above all, have no longing to become a future Buddha. Your sole concern should be, as thought succeeds thought, to avoid clinging to any of them. A few selections from a pamphlet compiled by the Krishnamurti Foundation India in 1990. The first selection is from Ojai, 1940. I personally feel that the world is myself, that what I do creates either peace or sorrow in the world that is myself. And as long as I do not understand myself, I cannot bring peace to the world. So my immediate concern is myself, not selfishly, not merely to alter myself in order to gain greater happiness, greater sensations, greater successes. For as long as I do not understand myself, I must live in pain and sorrow and cannot discover an enduring peace and happiness. And another selection from the Star Bulletin that was still of the Theosophical Society of 1932. The individual problem is the world problem. If the individual has found happiness, has created order within himself, then he will create order in the world around him and in helping others to solve their own individual problems. He will help to solve the world's problems. You think that in seeking the liberation of the self, there is a suggestion of egotism. You think that to be happy is a selfish realization. You think that to be free from all sorrow and strife is a desertion of the world. This is a misconception. Liberation is the very antithesis of the sense of ego, of I-ness. It is the ultimate realization for all people. And from a talk in Bombay in 1955, a questioner asks, what is this self-knowledge of which you speak, and how can I acquire it? Krishnamurti, it is very simple, sir. The first step is the last step in self-knowledge. The beginning is the end. The first step is what matters, because self-knowledge is not something you can learn from another. No one can teach you self-knowledge. You have to find out for yourself. It must be your own discovery, and that discovery is not something tremendous, fantastic. It is very simple. After all, to know yourself is to watch your behavior, your words, what you do in your everyday relationship. That is all. Begin with that, and you will see how extraordinarily difficult it is to be aware. Just to watch the manner of your behavior, the words you use to your servant, to your boss, the attitude you have with regard to people, to ideas, and to things. Just watch your thoughts, your motives in the mirror of relationship, and you will see that the moment you watch, you want to correct it. You say, this is good and that is bad. I must do this and not that. When you see yourself in the mirror of relationship, your approach is one of condemnation or justification. Therefore, you distort what you see. Whereas if you simply observe in that mirror your attitude with regard to people, to ideas and to things, if you just see the fact without judgment, without condemnation or acceptance, then you will find that that very perception has its own action. This is the beginning of self-knowledge. Don't say, I must be aware every minute, because that is just another manifestation of our foolishness. When we want to get somewhere, when we want to arrive at a particular state. What matters is to be aware of yourself and to keep on being aware without accumulating. Awareness without accumulating. Because the moment you accumulate from that center, you judge from what you remember, from what you know, from your past experiences. You judge, we judge. Self-knowledge is not a process of accumulation. It is a process of discovery from moment to moment in relationship. A selection from I Am That by Nisargadatta, translated by Maurice Friedman. Both Krishnamurti and Nisargadatta died in the 80s. This selection is entitled Obsession with the Body. Questioner. Maharaj, you are sitting in front of me and I am here at your feet. What is the basic difference between us? Nisargadatta, there is no basic difference. Questioner, still there must be some real difference. I come to you, you do not come to me. Nisargadatta, because you imagine differences, you go here and there in search of superior people. Questioner, you too are a superior person. You claim to know the real, while I do not. Nisargadatta, did I ever tell you that you do not know and therefore you are inferior? Let those who invented such distinctions prove them. I do not claim to know what you do not. In fact, I know much less than you do. Questioner, your words are wise, your behavior noble, and your grace all-powerful. Nisargadatta, I know nothing about it all, and I see no difference between you and me. My life is a succession of events just like yours. Only I am detached and see the passing show as a passing show, while you stick to things and move along with them. What made you so dispassionate? Nothing in particular. It so happened that I trusted my guru. He told me I'm nothing but myself, and I believed him. In Hindu spiritual teaching, the word self has a different meaning from the way we use it. So not to get stuck on words. He told me I'm nothing but myself, and I believed him. Trusting him, I behaved accordingly and ceased caring for what was not me or mine. Why were you so lucky to trust your teacher fully while our trust is nominal and verbal? Who can say? It happened so. Things happen without cause and reason, and after all, what does it matter who is who? Your high opinion of me is your opinion only. Any moment you may change it. Why attach importance to opinions, even your own? Still you are different. Your mind seems always to be quiet and happy, and miracles happen around you. I know nothing about miracles. And I wonder whether nature admits exceptions to her laws unless we agree that everything is a miracle. As to my mind, there is no such thing. There is consciousness in which everything happens. It is quite obvious and with the experience of everybody. You just do not look carefully enough. Look well and see what I see. What do you see? I see what you too could see here and now, but for the wrong focus of your attention. You give no attention to yourself. Your mind is all with things and people and ideas, never with yourself. Bring yourself into focus. Become aware of your own existence. See how you function. Watch the motives and the results of your actions. Study the prison you have built around yourself by inadvertence. By knowing what you are not, you come to know yourself. One thing is certain, the real is not imaginary. It is not a product of the mind. Once you are convinced that you cannot say truthfully about yourself anything except I am, and that nothing that can be pointed at can be yourself, you are no longer intent on verbalizing what you are. All you need is to get rid of the tendency to define yourself. All definitions apply to your body only and to its expressions. Once this obsession with the body goes, you will revert to your natural state spontaneously and effortlessly. The only difference between us is that I am aware of my natural state while you are bemused. Just like gold made into ornaments has no advantage over gold dust, except when the mind makes it so, so are we one in being. We differ only in appearance. We discover this by being earnest, by searching, inquiring, questioning daily and hourly, by giving one's life to this discovery. Selection from Being and Becoming by Vimala Thakur. She lives in India. And this book is transcription of dialogues that took place in Dalhousie in India during the summer of 1989. Again, like also with the previous selections, these are excerpts, which are very relevant to the way we're working. We are talking about an alternative way of living. We are talking about an alternative way of living, which is a meditative way of living. Acquire knowledge, let it flow through you. Let it be utilized in its relevant field without creating a knower. If we look at the roots of all human misery, we will find that misery is built upon our stupidity. Nisargadatta calls it inadvertence. We do not know how to relate to the social structures and use them without identification, without creating a sense of authority out of them. Structures are not sacred. It is only life that is sacred. Patterns have no sacredness, whether you create them in the name of religion, spirituality, or politics. It is the pattern-free, structure-free, virgin dynamism of life that is sacred, that is divine. Wherever you have touched it with thought, you have manipulated it, you have structured it. It has a utility, but it has no sanctity. It has a utility, but no authority. You have a beautiful, sensitive body, and the sensitivity gets in touch with its respective objects outside, and they bring sensations. Sensations are converted back to electric impulses, and the brain interprets them. It is a marvelous process of what we call experiencing. contact with the outside world through the senses, which are very delicate, very tender. It is quite hard and arduous work to keep your sensual system pure, healthy, supple, and elastic. Let the experiences flow through the sensual system. Nothing wrong in a sensual, sexual experience, but you create an experiencer and get stuck in the experiencer and its likes and dislikes, its value structures, its preferences, its prejudices, its theories. If the sensual contact with objects is allowed to flow through you without creating an experiencer, then the limited human-made world cannot corrupt you. As the oneness of life manifests itself into manyness and does not get corrupted, does not lose its vitality, does not get mutilated. In the same way, you acquire knowledge and you appear as an individual playing the role of a father, a brother, a mother, a child. You are one, appearing as many. There's no identification with the fatherness, the sonness, daughterness, sisterness. And you don't tie so many knots inside, but play the roles sanely, completely with the magnificence of an inner equipoise. Then you're appearing as many, functioning as many. You're acquiring the knowledge of structures, and handling of structures shall not corrupt you. In the human-made world, one has to learn to let the knowledge flow without creating a knower, and let the experiences take place without creating an experiencer. That is the way of meditative living. Silence is inner unconditional freedom from the authority of the past. Silence is inner unconditional freedom from the authority of the past. Silence is unconditional freedom from effort, and therefore the alternative way of living. Meditation has no repetition at all. It is moment to moment. In the moment of relating, you are living. In the moment of aloneness, you are dying. It is living and dying, like inhaling and exhaling. To be alone is to die to the sense of being somebody or being something. Is not that the content of death and dying? To be alone is to die to the sense of being somebody. Sinner, saint, holy, knowledgeable, respected, rich, poor. To be alone is to die to being something according to the definition of society, according to the value structure of religions. Physically isolating yourself may not lead you to the aloneness. It may not. That is what we are afraid of, dying to the sense of being somebody. Dying to all the images that you have built up about yourself is being alone. Dying to all the images you have built up about yourself is being alone. The way we are tackling the theme may be unusual, unheard of to many. It is a non-conventional way, a non-traditional approach. But I am really grateful that life brings you and me together. Now we will go from prose to poetry. starting with One Robe, One Bowl, Zen Poetry of Ryokan, translated by John Stevens. He was a hermit, a recluse, but loved to go into the village and drink sake with the farmers and get drunk and play with the children. Fresh morning snow in front of the shrine. The trees. Are they white with peach blossoms or white with snow? The children and I joyfully throw snowballs. Walking beside a clear running river, I come to a farmhouse. The evening chill has given way to the warmth of the morning sun. Sparrows gather in a bamboo grove, voices fluttering here and there. I meet the old farmer returning to his home. He greets me like a long-lost friend. At his cottage, the farmer's wife heats sake while we eat freshly picked vegetables and chat. Together, gloriously drunk, we no longer know the meaning of unhappiness. An evening dream. Everything must have been an illusion. I cannot explain clearly even one part of what I saw. Yet in the dream it seemed as if the truth were in front of my eyes. This morning, awake, is it not the same dream? Who can sympathize with my life? My hut lies near the top of a mountain, and the path leading here is covered with weeds. On the fence, a single gourd. From across the river, the sound of logging. Ill, I lie on the pillow and watch the sunrise. A bird cries in the distance. My only consolation. Late at night, listening to the winter rain, recalling my youth. Was it only a dream? Was I really young once? The hour grows late, but the sound of hail striking the bamboo keeps me from sleep. Another blizzard. The mountains are covered with deep snow. From now on, news from town must wait till spring. In even a light snow, we can see the 3,000 worlds. Again, a light snow falls. Wind and snow, then snow and rain. Tonight, awakened by the cry of a wild goose, in the dark, endless winter sky. Lying in my freezing hut, unable to sleep. Only a quiet roar of water pouring over a cliff. I lie down near the hearth and stretch out my feet to the fire, but still the cold pierces my belly. No begging in the town again today. The snow falls and falls. Late at night, the snow is piling higher and higher, muffling the sound of the waterfall. The freezing morning rain has let up, What should I do? Fetch water? Chop firewood? Gather winter greens? In the shadow of the mountains, the firewood burns, brightening my cold little grass hut. Winter will soon be over. Please, please come visit my grass hut. My heart beats faster and faster, and I cannot sleep. Tomorrow will be the first day of spring. Lying on my grass pillow, dreaming about this dream world again, lonely, fitful sleep. As I watch the children happily playing, without realizing it, my eyes fill with tears. Thinking about the people in this floating world far into the night, my sleeve is wet with tears. A thief has stolen my mat and cushion. Why did he break into my hermitage? The door is never locked. The night is ending, and I sit alone by the window. A sparse rain falls gently against the bamboo grove. The thief left it behind. The moon at the window. Down here. Oh, that my priest's robe were wide enough to gather up all the suffering people in this floating world. We'll read poems by Mary Oliver from 3 different books. This one is called White Pine. (1994), this is the latest of her books. Work. How beautiful this morning was Pasture Pond. It had lain in the dark all night, catching the rain on its broad back. All day I work with the linen of words and the pins of punctuation. All day I hang out over a desk, grinding my teeth, staring. Then I sleep. Then I come out of the house, even before the sun is up, and walk back through the pine woods to Pasture Pond. I looked up. I looked up, and there it was among the green branches of the pitch pines. Thick bird, a ruffle of fire trailing over the shoulders and down the back. Color of copper, iron, bronze, lighting up the dark branches of the pine. What misery to be afraid of death. What wretchedness to believe only in what can be proven. When I made a little sound, it looked at me. Then it looked past me. Then it rose, the wings enormous and opulent, and, as I said, wreathed in fire. This is from the House of Light, Mary Oliver. The notebook, 6 a.m. The small pond turtle lifts its head into the air like a green toe. It looks around. What it sees is the whole world swirling back from darkness, a red sun rising over the water, over the pines, and the wind lifting, and the water striders heading out, and the white lilies opening their happy bodies. The turtle doesn't have a word for any of it, the silky water or the enormous blue morning, or the curious affair of its own body. On the shore, I'm so busy scribbling and crossing out, I almost miss seeing him paddle away through the wet black forest. More and more the moments come to me. How much can the right word do? The right word do. Now a few of the lilies are a faint flamingo inside their white hearts. And there is still time to let the last roses of the sunrise float down into my uplifted eyes. New and selected poems. Some questions you might ask. Is the soul solid like iron? Or is it tender and breakable like the wings of a moth in the beak of the owl? Who has it and who doesn't? I keep looking around me. The face of the moose is as sad as the face of Jesus. The swan opens her white wings slowly. In the fall, the black bear carries leaves into the darkness. One question leads to another. Does it have a shape? Like an iceberg? Like the eye of a hummingbird? Does it have one lung like the snake and the scallop? Why should I have it and not the anteater who loves her children? Why should I have it and not the camel? Come to think of it, what about the maple trees? What about the blue iris? What about all the little stones sitting alone in the moonlight? What about roses and lemons and their shining leaves? What about the grass? White owl flies into and out of the field. Coming down out of the freezing sky with its depths of light, like an angel or a Buddha with wings, it was beautiful and accurate, striking the snow and whatever was there with a force that left the imprint of the tips of its wings, 5 feet apart. And the grabbing thrust of its feet, and the indentation of what had been running through the white valleys of the snow. And then it rose again gracefully and flew back to the frozen marshes to lurk there like a little lighthouse in the blue shadows. So I thought, maybe death isn't darkness after all, but so much light wrapping itself around us, as soft as feathers, that we're instantly weary of looking and shut our eyes, not without amazement, and let ourselves be carried as through the translucence of mica to the river that is without the least dapple or shadow, that is nothing but light, scalding aortal light, in which we are washed and washed out of our bones. University Hospital, Boston. The trees on the hospital lawn are lush and thriving. They too are getting the best of care, like you and the anonymous many in the clean rooms high above the city, where day and night the doctors keep arriving, where intricate machines chart with cool devotion the murmur of the blood, the slow patching up of bone, the despair of the mind. When I come to visit and we walk out into the light of a summer day, we sit under the trees. Buckeyes, a sycamore, and one black walnut brooding high over a hedge of lilacs, as old as the red brick building behind them. The original hospital built before the Civil War. We sit on the lawn together holding hands while you tell me you're better. How many young men, I wonder, came here, wheeled on cots off the slow trains from the red and hideous battlefields, to lie all summer in the small and stuffy chambers while doctors did what they could, longing for tools still unimagined, medicines still unfound, wisdoms still unguessed at. And how many died, staring at the leaves of the trees, blind to the terrible effort around them to keep them alive. I look into your eyes, which are sometimes green and sometimes gray, and sometimes full of humor, but often not, and tell myself you're better, because my life without you would be a place of parched and broken trees. Later, walking the corridors down to the street, I turn and step inside an empty room. Yesterday, someone was here with a gasping face. Now the bed is made all new. The machines have been rolled away. The silence continues, deep and neutral, as I stand there loving you. Sunrise. You can die for it, an idea or the world. People have done so brilliantly, letting their small bodies be bound to the stake creating an unforgettable fury of light. But this morning, climbing the familiar hills in the familiar fabric of dawn, I thought of China and India and Europe, and I thought how the sun blazes for everyone just so joyfully as it rises under the lashes of my own eyes. And I thought, I am so many. What is my name? What is the name of the deep breath I would take over and over for all of us? Call it whatever you want. It is happiness. It is another one of the ways to enter fire. We will end here for today.